There are 4,218 PlayStation 2 games, and I've got to beat every single one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing on the original hardware, but at the end of each video, you have a chance to guess what the next game is going to be. Do you think I can do this before I die of old age? I hope so. We're finally on to game number 34, Gun, the actual first game in the series for Red Dead Revolver and Red Dead Redemption, as Red Dead Revolver just isn't quite the same as Gun and the Red Dead Redemption series. So Gun is really the basis for those games. Now back in the day, I did rent this and play it through one time, or at least what I remember playing it through. So now, at this age, 35, I'm ready to see how this game fucking ends. Before we begin, I want to thank the patrons who subscribed to the Patreon that I made, because I really appreciate it. This particular tier means that I have a drawing between all the people in it to see who gets to pick the next game I play. Now this will be a couple games down the line, and I'll announce it when the video comes out, but they do get to pick. Now this game has a single player experience, and that is it, so getting to the end of the game and seeing the credits is how I'll beat this game. The game begins with a cutscene showing a priest carrying a big golden cross, surrounded by many men wielding tons of different weapons. Eventually, they do get tracked down by some Native Americans who kill them, presumably taking the cross. We're then shown a paragraph which explains that our main character's name is Colton White, it's 1880, we're in Montana, and they make a living hunting for a steamboat. We're then woken up by our father, who says it's time to earn our pay, which of course means it's tutorial time. Movement immediately feels great, no tank controls here. Ned gives us a quick example of how he shoots an elk, just in case we wanted to know. We're shown how to draw our weapon, which begins with a pistol, and we're given the opportunity to shoot 3 quail, all on our own. Now there is a little bit of aim assist, so it does help in situations such as these where there's small enemies or things to shoot at, although most of the time you'll be shooting at people. Then the game gives us the opportunity to learn Quick Draw, which is absolutely from the Red Dead Redemption games. Slows down time, and you can use either the right stick to freely aim or the left stick to flick in a direction to choose a target for you. Next, we get to try our new abilities out on some wolves who come to attack us. We are then given a rifle for the first time to zoom in and kill 2 elk. The difference between the pistol and the rifle is the ability to zoom in and a damage increase from the pistol to the rifle. Obviously, in close quarters situations, the pistol is a great thing to use, but the rifle will be extremely helpful when you need to keep your distance. We have to then protect our elk kills from some wolves who come up, but this is nothing compared to the bear who sneaks up on Ned. A bear sneaks up on us. For some reason, we have eyes for Ned's rifle, which we pick up and use to kill the bear. After this, the steamboat arrives, and we're shown the title of the game. Gun! Prepare yourself for a very interesting and overly dramatic ride. Once on the boat, we meet this woman named Sadie, who already knows our father. We see them messing around in this room with a safe, and Ned definitely does not want you to see what he's doing. A priest named Reed comes up to you and says some very creepy things, and I'm not so sure about this guy, but my suspicion really grows when this happens. Oh. Well, the priest isn't alone. He's brought some friends with him. So they board the boat, and you must fight your way through. Ned follows you around and helps you clear out all the guys, and eventually, you must break a board on the wheels in the back of the boat to get it started again. Next, we get to get on a cannon and fire at all of the keel boats that are coming up alongside us and shooting us. The cannon really isn't too bad to use either. It's got a small arc, and usually where you aim, as long as you're aiming a little higher, it works great. We then fight our way back to Ned, who is at the top deck of the ship. The game reminds us of Quick Draw, and it's actually a lot of fun to use because I also realize here you have infinite ammo and do not have to reload. Ned suddenly says, "I'm not your dad," and then sacrifices himself so you can escape. We see the priest getting on a train and confronts 2 men inside of it. One who doesn't really seem important, but the other one, Magruder, this old man with an eye patch, is the leader. And he asks the priest whether or not he was able to kill Sadie and also Ned, but did he recover the item that was in the safe? Well, he didn't because it sunk with the boat. Obviously, it's locked. Well, for failing him, this guy cuts the priest's ear off, which is pretty crazy. Now we know how serious this guy is the second we meet him. So, just a little dramatic. We wake up to a guy who's messing around with us while we're unconscious and flip him over. Well, Ned is definitely dead because he went down with the ship, but he gave you something and you need to head to the city of Dodge. The guy who found us is nice enough to teach us how to ride a horse. Holding L2 will make the horse sprint. If you let go of L2, he will stop sprinting. But if you are holding L2 and then you let go and press quickly, you will then get a burst of speed. I don't know why this wasn't a separate button, or if there just wasn't really a reason to hold down a button to sprint with the horse because there's no sprint button for your character. Well, it all ends in us actually racing Honest Tom to keep his horse, and I do accidentally cheat because I don't know when he's gonna say ready, set, go. Riding a horse is surprisingly easy and pretty well done. The sprinting bar at the bottom left there is actually represented by the horse's health. So if you ride your horse too hard because you've made it sprint too many times, the horse will actually just die out from underneath of you. So you gotta be careful. Don't ride your horse too hard. When riding your horse, you're actually allowed to head bash into someone, but for some reason the head bashing looks like this, and I just called it bum shuffling because that's what it looks like the horse is doing, shuffling its bum on the ground. Honest Tom challenges you to shoot some bottles on a rock and shoot some wolves, and if you can do this better than him, he'll give you his horse. Just as we thought Honest Tom was actually honest, some of his friends roll up and they start shooting at you. Thanks, dude. Shooting while riding on your horse isn't too difficult, especially when you have quick draw with the pistol, and that's exactly what you need to do. Or headbutt. Once you're finished, you gotta take the trail to Dodge. You get to ride this cool ferry that takes you across the river. Once we get into Dodge, there's a couple people that we can talk to. The shopkeep, who has things in a shop that you can buy, the wanted posters, and the Pony Express, both of which are quests. The wanted dead or alive posters are pretty self-explanatory. You track someone down and you either kill them or you let them live by subduing them. You get more stats and money if you just subdue them, but if you kill them, you do still get some stuff. The Pony Express is riding your horse as fast as you possibly can from one spot to the next spot. That's it. I do buy a pickaxe so I can mine gold that I find around the map, which gives you $10 each time you find one. I decided to try a wanted dead or alive poster, and here, Mahoney is someone I actually subdue, so I get the most amount of money and stats. And here you see the stats. They help with exactly what they say they do, and you even have a stats menu that you can look at, but you don't actually get to see the exact number. You only get to see bars, so kinda helpful. Equipped with my new powers of subduing, I decided to try it on a random town person. Well, the action changes to execute. I don't know why. But up here in the top left, you can see a little bar called Town Patience. They don't have patience for whatever the fuck you're doing in their town. Now, I do try the Pony Express, and here you can see a delivery timer while I'm riding my horse. Obviously, it's an introductory one, so it's real simple, just from this dude to this dude, and then back. Each one having a timer. You gotta do it before the timer or you fail the mission. Back to the main mission, we walk into the bar that we're supposed to go to, and we meet a woman named Jenny. She's actually the person that Ned wanted us to talk to. But we get interrupted by these guys who just keep talking about being poked. We get to do this poking first, which is obviously a terrible euphemism for banging. But these guys get so mad that they actually kidnap this woman, and now we've got to fight our way through a bunch of people who are upstairs paying for sex. We just killed most of the town's population, of men at least. I saved Jenny with a super awesome quick draw headshot. Afterwards, she rewards us by giving us the stuff Ned left behind that Sadie said she was definitely keeping for me, which is a cool gun and some other shit. But it ain't over because the brother of the guy you killed who was holding this woman hostage, totally understandable that you killed him, has come for revenge already, very quickly. So we've got to stop these guys from setting fire to the Alhambra. And at this point, we're only working on the interior, but eventually we go outside. Now, I do have some trouble finding people, even though on the minimap it's very clear that they're orange dots. So next time I play, I realize I gotta watch for those fucking orange dots, because a guy in the back is throwing fire and I didn't even know where he was. This guy, Crude, who is the brother of the guy you killed in the bar, is riding around on his horse and he's invincible, so shooting him does really nothing. Instead, you have to murder yet the other half of the town's population of men. Pat Denton, the town's sheriff, finally shows up, and he says he's been at the bridge fighting Native Americans because they're trying to blow the bridge up. After they bang, Colt decides to talk about the priest with Jenny, who actually remembers him the week before this all happened, coming in to talk to Sadie. The only thing that he would say was that he was from Empire, which is another town not too far from here. They realize it's probably a good idea to talk to the mayor of Empire, Hoodoo Brown, to see if he knows anything about Reed. I unlocked the whiskey bomb, which I decide not to throw in town, lest I lose some more of the town's patience. The sheriff asks us to clear the bridge of all the Native Americans who are trying to stop them from building the bridge, probably because they don't want the bridge to be built. But you know what, we brutally kill them anyway, and honestly, it's pretty funny once I get here because I realize that the corpses can sometimes move, and the enemies aren't actually dead when they're on the ground. So you can see them squirm around, and then you can also shoot them, and they still scream, which is so wonderful. We have to take a transport across the bridge so that we can get to another platform where there's a bunch of TNT barrels just waiting to be blown up. Well, when I get there, the first thing I do is blow them up. Because why not? They look like I should be blowing them up. Apparently that fails the mission. Instead, you're supposed to be picking them up and chucking them over into the water. Once that's done, we actually get attacked by a big, huge group of Native Americans running up the bridge like crazy, and we've got to shoot all of them yet again. Once we are done being attacked, we are finally able to put the bridge into place, but this still isn't the end because the Native Americans come back and attack us again. This time with fire arrows being shot at these TNT barrels, everyone here is too lazy to get up and just fucking move. Then they start running at you, hoping to hit the TNT barrels like the orc from Lord of the Rings when he's trying to hit the bomb to blow up the wall of the castle. Now we can use a carriage to get to the next city, Empire. However, the route there is crawling with Native Americans, and so we need a group to go along with us, even though later that won't be the case. But right now, they're real pissed. The next section is actually pretty long. It has us riding along the carriage with our horse, shooting Native Americans as we pass by, running into them with our horse with our bum shovel. Eventually, we are on the ground as the carriage has been stopped, and we have to blow up a wall with some TNT. This real unlucky dude gets an arrow shot directly into his neck, and it screws up the entire carriage, and as we fix it on the ground, protecting it with Jenny along our side, we eventually ride on the top of it, surfing along, shooting Native Americans along the way. Eventually, we do make it to Empire, where we meet Hoodoo Brown, the town's mayor, someone who thinks he's so cool, but then he tells us to just look around and do some other shit until we finally are ready to do the quest. There's a cool little screenshot here that actually tells you all about how to increase your stats and how important it is, because people will begin to get stronger. Really what happens is everyone gets a better gun as you go along, but you do too. However, some of the stats will affect things like health, how fast you reload, how much damage you do, and they're all important in helping you keep up in pace, so you should do a few missions, which is what I do. Just like the Wanted Dead or Alive poster, we talk to this guy who gives us a quest that we're going to ambush some people with some TNT barrels. I get up on this rooftop and begin throwing the TNT barrels down into the junction in the town here, and eventually they do ride by and I blow them up. Neat. Our first mission for the mayor has him asking us about the person that we wanted to know about, the priest, Reed. He says that he'll help us if we help him, of course. So he makes us a deputy, and the second he does, a man from the town walks in and says, "Hey, this guy right here has been spotted in town." Well, this guy is a key piece to the resistance against the town. Hoodoo asks to help get him, and if you help him get him, he will help you get the priest. We go to the bar where he's been spotted, but we don't find him exactly. We do find some members, and they notice that you've been deputized. So a firefight starts out, which is pretty cool because this game really does do firefights pretty well, especially with quick draw. Now we don't find them here, but we decide to go after them at this farm. So we go over there and we just destroy everyone on horseback, which is admittedly still super fun every time we do it. Inside of this barn we find some innocent people, and the two men sent with us from Hoodoo Brown decide to shoot them. Well, our character doesn't like that very much, tries to arrest them, and one of them says this wonderful line, "What are you gonna do, shoot us in cold blood?" Yeah, I think I will. Based on what these guys said before I shot them in cold blood, Hoodoo Brown is actually a bad guy and has been playing us. We talk to this guy again to do a side quest, and this time we've got to help some people who are being held hostage in a mine. We ride our horse quite a ways to find the mine, and then we save these people who are being held hostage. And for some reason there's this jarring transition at the end of the mission to us being outside and then getting our stats. Before we head on with the main mission, I decided to stop by a shop I found kind of on the outreach of town, and they have some pretty good stuff, making my rifle stronger and my horse faster. When we eventually go back to Hoodoo Brown, we say, "Hey, what's going on?" He says, "The preacher's actually in the back with Jenny. Everything's fine, man, I promise." Well, everything's not fine, as you can see from the scene above. Colton doesn't really react well, and instead of being able to shoot anyone and take care of it, Hoodoo sneaks up behind him and bashes him on the head. We wake up in jail for some reason alive, with one other person in our cell and a person across the way in an even more fortified cell. Well, that guy's name is Soapy, and he says he'll help you as long as you kill the guard and come back and let him out of this very hard to get out of cell. No, don't do it! After we escape, we get a bow and arrow to use in this stealth mission, where we must kill these little camps of people, take horses, and stash them underneath a bridge, which we will use later to escape. I find myself dodging gunfire holding a TNT barrel just to save this guy from jail, all because he told me to kill someone to pick a lock. Now this guy does end up leaving us, but we escape, so it's okay. The other guy happens to be part of the resistance we were originally fighting, so he takes us back to the resistance camp. Although they aren't really happy to see me, since the one guy who is actually leading the resistance camp saw me shaking hands with Hoodoo Brown, so he doesn't trust me. However, the other guys do tell him that I killed his right-hand men, the guys who killed the innocent people in the barn earlier. Then he sees a picture of my father, who he knows, and he thinks he was killed way earlier during the war. Now they accept me, and the next morning we get word that there's a Gatling gun on a train, and it's for the bad guys, so maybe we should stop it. We decide to stop the train with these TNT barrels and some rocks. But wouldn't you guess it, some people thought it would be better to stop the train much earlier, so they attack way down the line. Well, we have to leave our TNT barrels and go save those dudes. Once we do, we race back on our horse to get to the barrels before the train does. Then we wait until the very last second, where we explode the barrels and the train comes to a stop. We then fight a massive amount of dudes just to secure this Gatling gun. We are successful, however, something else happens. In the back of the train, a large amount of Native Americans, assumed to be slaves, are just kind of sitting there, and they're really not being treated well because they ask for water immediately. Then their leader comes up from behind us. He remembers you from the bridge incident and is like, "You killed a bunch of our dudes." Our guy says, "But I saved a bunch right now." Like, what? Really? I think I'd probably kill him. I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, thanks. Boom, you're dead." After this, we head back to camp where everyone starts drinking a bunch of alcohol because why not? The leader, Clay, actually tells us about our father a long time ago in the war, and it's actually a really weird story. Outside of the war, Magruder takes his battalion to find whatever it is he's looking for. We don't actually know, but our father is there with him, so we assume that whatever was in the safe at the beginning of the game that he was looking for is probably what he was trying to find here. But he gets pissed at everyone. Where's this cross? Oh yeah, from the beginning of the game. Well, a Native American comes up, says some things to him, he shoots him. Then Ned, your father, says some shit to this guy. He shoots him. Another person says shit to this dude. And you know what? It's not enough just to shoot him anymore. So he does this. This woman comes out of nowhere and blasts him in the eye, which is pretty sweet. It breaks the cross, but she gets shot. Big fucking surprise. But how did Ned survive? So we don't really know any more than this because this guy leaves. So apparently Ned survives being shot. And this guy says Magruder is still looking for that golden cross, especially since it was broken in two. Your party gets cut short as you get ambushed by some dudes with a cannon. However, because you're such a good shot, you're able to steal the cannon, and everyone decides, hey, maybe it's worth attacking them before they expect it. We've got a cannon. Also, Clay somehow was captured during this whole battle, so now we have to attack him. Well, we help these guys by escorting the cannon through town, watching out for dudes trying to kill us, also throwing TNT barrels down from the roof, picking them up and throwing them out of the way, and eventually coming to a spot where we use the cannon to blow away some debris and stop some dudes from shooting us. We break through this laundry store where we eventually find an underground tunnel that leads us to the secret torture chamber, where Hoodoo is torturing our leader Clay. How dare he torture someone we just met? After killing some more dudes, we finally get to Clay, untie him, and save his life. It's finally time to kill Hoodoo Brown, so we shoot our way through a lot of dudes. When we get to him, we start shooting him. He starts begging for his life like a little baby. But then he actually tells us that the steamer was ambushed because Magruder wanted whatever was in that safe. He says there's no way to get it now, it's under 10 feet of water. But apparently, during this time of year, the water recedes enough to get to the safe. I don't know why Hoodoo wouldn't have known that, but it doesn't matter because now our goal is to go get what's ever in that safe. We pretend to give him one last chance to fight us, but we're just too fucking good at the game. So he gets his ass blown out the window after saying this wonderful line, "I'm Hoodoo Brown," like it matters. After this, for some reason, his corpse is set up in the middle of town for people to throw rocks at and to defile, I guess. I don't know, they all hated him so much. But I found out a cool thing about it. You can blow his limbs off while he's just sitting there dead. I mean, obviously he's dead, but it's super fun. You actually get to see how much effort they put into the limb destruction onto the characters. Because if you blow them up with something like dynamite or shoot them in the right spot, these parts of their bodies fly off and sometimes fly at the screen. So it's fun to watch. I just didn't realize how much it was, to what extent it was. The next mission is to save Soapy, the guy you rescued from jail earlier. He is a master lockpicker, and he'll help you open that safe under the water. Too bad for him, he's about to hang, so you've got to save him. I finally get my hands on my first sniper, and I use it when the rope gets taut from him being hung to save his life. There's a lot of pissed off people coming for me, but guess what? I'm the best gun around, so screw them. We have a sweet fight sequence on the ferry, and they actually have their own ferry at the other end, so they start chasing us, but we're just too good. In the next scene, Magruder tells Reed that it's his responsibility to go get that cross for him, so he needs to go chase me down and get the safe. As we're looking at the safe, excited to finally crack it open, we get snuck up on, and now we're captured. These guys are renegades, hired by Magruder, but not trusted by him. Hollister is the main dude here, and he doesn't know who we are. So when we are in the camp, Reed shows up and he does not snitch on us. Well, because he doesn't know who we are. We realize we have time to make an escape, but to do so, we've got to help the Native Americans who are randomly being beaten up around the camp. We all eventually try and sneak out of the camp by executing some of the guards and moving around them. However, when the game tells you to do this, they're not actually ready to be executed. Sometimes there are people too close and they can see you, so I fail about 5 or 6 times until I realize who I had to watch out for. I eventually get my hand on a bow, which I use to stealthily take out the outside area of the camp, letting us escape. Luckily, the stealth part is pretty lenient once you get to this area because you're just shooting guys with a bow and arrow, and they're all really far away from each other anyway, so they never know that they're about to be shot by a bow. We steal a horse, and the next area is just madness. I'm just shooting and ramming and butt shuffling all around, fighting these dudes, and it's actually pretty fun, since the mechanics of the game are well done and simple. To thank us for saving the Native Americans stuck in that camp, the leader tells us a story about myself, because they all know you, somehow. But this story is really weird. Apparently a cougar almost kills the main character. They're saved by one of the Native Americans using some kind of ritual. I don't think it's like a crazy ritual, just like sprinkling some stuff on him. But then his father says, when you came out of the almost death, you were stalking and moving like a cougar. And it's like, is this game magic? Colton the Cougar says we can make you great again by destroying the fort where Hollister's men are located at. Wonderful. The next day we all get together to find some boats to go into the fort itself. I get to drive this little canoe around and shoot dudes from it, which is pretty fun. Once I get onto land and I'm fighting these guys, well, I've got dynamite and now I have double pistols, which is so much fun to just run around and gun people down. And you can still use quick draw with no drawbacks with the 2 pistols. You're just super powerful now. We also get to control a cannon and destroy anything that moves. Once we get to the last cannon and destroy everyone there, drop this bridge, we've done it. We've beaten the fort. Right after this, Hollister's a little scallywag and throws some dynamite at us. Like any other named character, they have a lot of health, but they're really not too hard to deal with, especially since you have your flasks to heal your health, and they just don't. Hollister tries to blow you up with his own body, but he just isn't successful. But his limbs are pretty cool. This is where I begin using a webcam during my streams, so you're going to be seeing this from now on. Immediately past this, we find the safe, but we are ambushed by all the rest of the renegades, including Reed, who tries to take the cross from us once we open the safe. However, that's pretty cool. Our character just doesn't even look, throws it back in the safe, and shuts it. He knows what's up. It doesn't matter though, because I'm just too good of a shot and I defeat Reed. And just like everyone else, he begs me to keep him alive, but honestly, why would I do that? In the safe is one of the pieces of the golden cross that Magruder's been looking for. It makes sense, but we still don't know exactly what it's for other than putting together for a cross. So, is this magic? I'm super surprised when Magruder gets angry that Reed has died and did not get him the cross like he asked him to. He sends everybody in the world in my direction, and you know what? I accept it because I love fighting. We actually know where the other part of the cross is being held at, in Apache camp with some Native Americans. On our way to go get it though, I decide let's try and do another wanted dead or alive poster. Well, this one's interesting because there's a huge group of guys, one on a Gatling gun, but then one of the new rifles I get does this. Look at that. That thing is like a shotgun. On to the Apache camp, we actually find one of the Native Americans who has the other half of the cross, and he tells an interesting story. We go back to the war, where Magruder kills everybody. Well, we get to see a different side of it. The woman who ends up shooting Magruder in the face actually hands a young boy a baby to take care of and run away. While all this is happening, he hides, and at the end, he comes back out and finds Ned, who is alive, which we knew, but this is what happened. The boy hands the child to Ned and says, if you want to reconcile with all this stuff that happened, you gotta take the kid and raise him. And Ned does, and it's us. And our actual dad is one of the Native Americans that Magruder killed. That boy turns out to be the Native American who helped us find this other piece of the cross, and he's also our brother. Once the story is over, we put the 2 pieces of the cross together to figure out what the shit is going on. Well, apparently there's a Latin phrase as well as some symbols. It ends up being a map to what I assume is a city full of gold, or maybe a big mine full of gold. The Native Americans actually know where this is for some reason, so let's go. As we ride there, we're ambushed by Magruder's men, but I use my super magic rifle to just destroy them off the back of the horses, on the ground, doesn't matter where they are. We ride up to the top of this peak and use the symbols to match up with the landscape, and also use the little clue on the cross itself to locate the City of Gold. Apparently they've been trying to find it without the map, and they've been digging down, but instead they were supposed to go up, and I guess that's where it is. Soapy gets captured somehow, and they force him to tell him where the mine is, and he says, "It's up," and they said, "Oh." Soapy somehow escapes while they've got their backs turned, and we find him, and he tells us that Magruder's on his way. We steal a train and head to the last mission by killing Dutchy, the bald, silent guy that stands in the room with Magruder sometimes in some of the scenes. The last mission is chock full of fighting as we escort another cannon down some railroad tracks, using it to cave in small tunnels that have guys pouring through so that they stop shooting you. And the resistance is with you the whole time, helping you do things with the cannon, push it, and even turning it around on this big turnstile. We finally meet up with Magruder, who has a bunch of armor on, so that your shots don't do nearly as much damage. In fact, they don't really do much damage at all. No, instead you're supposed to use the environment, these weird looking geysers around this gold plated area. You have to throw dynamite into it, and as you can see here, I get my ass blown up by it. Well, that gives me an immediate idea. Oh yeah, I think I need to lead him into these as I blow them up. Getting his health all the way down moves him up to the top of this area, where you goad him into throwing dynamite at you, and you shoot it out of the air. Your goal? To make the whole area cave in on top of him. Honestly, for a last boss fight, it's not too bad. I understand that there wasn't really much else they could do, but give him more health so that you could shoot at him for a while. At least they came up with something unique, and it's not anywhere else in the game, as far as I can tell, that you do something like this. So at least this last battle is unique, but it's also easy to figure out. It didn't take me very long to realize I needed to blow up the geysers or to shoot the dynamite out of the air. If you couldn't guess what Colton was going to do, he decides to harass Magruder as he dies, which is great, wonderful, and he even lets the rocks kill him. And this, everyone, is the end of Gun. We made it to the end of the game in about 6.5 hours or so, maybe about 5. All in all, Gun is a decent game, mechanics-wise. The shooting, riding your horse, the different missions you can do, they're all really fun. The story is okay. It's very overdramatic and sometimes moves just a little too fast, and it's a little too campy for my taste. So the mechanics are really what saved it for me, and honestly, it's perfect. It's great that they had these mechanics on a PS2 game and then finally moved on to the Xbox 360 and the PS3 and Red Dead Redemption. Obviously, the game isn't very fleshed out. Everything is fairly basic. You don't really get to buy any new guns, and the guns you get, while they're great, they replace your old guns. So all you're doing is using a slightly more powerful gun with no real character to it. Yeah, it's got a name and it's got a special model, but I'm not really paying attention. I didn't go in and equip it myself. The main missions are great, but the side missions are all very, very repetitive and don't really give any new cool mechanics anywhere. But I definitely have to say that if you like playing these third-person shooters with stories and some interesting mechanics, especially how well the shooting was done, because man, it's a lot of fun to run around and shoot people. I definitely recommend this game. Thank you everyone for watching. On to the guessing game. Alright, it's the guessing game. What did Stable Diffusion try to make out of the next game I'm playing? It's going to be an interesting one. It's a popular game, I think. I mean, it was popular for me. A lot of people wanted to see it, and we beat it in pretty much one go. I already streamed this, so it was like 4 hours, 3 hours at most, and I mean, I just blew through the game. It was so much fun, though. I even got to do some extracurricular stuff after I beat the game, so that might give you a hint on what it is. I also want to thank the patrons that I thanked earlier one more time. Thank you so much for subscribing to my Patreon. I really didn't think that was going to go anywhere, but everyone said it might be a good idea, so I did it, and we have 3 people. That means I had a drawing, and one of those people get to choose one of the new games I play soon. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll be back for the next video.